Welcome to a Fantasy Fan Sportscast with Easy and Lou Landers. Now enjoy the show, but don't forget our safe word.
Welcome. And our safe word just about was, where the hell is Lou? That was about the safe word because Lou said, let's go. I hit the button and Lou went away. But it looks like I have Lou back.
All for dramatic effect, man. All for dramatic effect.
Luckily, I am very easily not flustered. Because we are live on our YouTube channel. We are live on Spreaker. And I really don't even care. This show is for Easy. This show is about Easy. This show is to help Easy. And I really don't care about anyone else tonight. Hopefully,
well,
something out of it.
I do.
Get something out of it.
I care about you, Easy, but I care about the listeners who are preparing for their fantasy football draft.
F the listeners. This is about me. That's all that matters. You know what? Okay. So go ahead, keep listening, put a question in the chat room on YouTube. We'll answer it. But tonight, I'm excited, Lou. I'm excited. Fantasy football is here. I know I'm involved in baseball with you, and baseball's kind of exciting, but to me, it's not the same.
I know you're a football guy.
My big home draft, my main league, the league that got me into fantasy, it's a live draft. I got pork butt on the smoker right now. I'll be making some barbecue sauces, but it's Sunday. Fantasy football starts for Easy. And that's why we're doing this show, because I have questions. I need someone to bring me down, maybe. I need someone to puff me up. That's your job.
All right, man.
That's your job. So, like I said, if you get anything out of this tonight, God bless you. Because, again, it's all about me. Because life is just a fantasy, and that's what we're doing tonight. So, that being said, the first question I have is baseball. How about that for a little twist?
I was not expecting that, man.
You were not. I get it. But I am very competitive right now in another league with another one of the sports crew, the sportscrew.com. You about let me forget that. Sportscrew.com. They post my crazy stuff. I appreciate that. The Fantasy Fan Sportscast, the A-Hole Hour. But I'm in one of the leagues with some people over there. I might be second. I don't know. I don't want to brag that I'm second place, but here I have a quick dilemma, and I know you are the baseball guy.
I'm one of many baseball guys.
No. You're the baseball guy. You are my baseball guy. My team is tight, Lou. My team is tight.
All right.
But I think I have the ability to pick up somebody. I haven't made too many pickups in a while because I struggle with dropping people because my team is so good. But tonight, available on waivers, is Victor Robles. Is that how you pronounce it? Is that it?
Victor Robles, rookie for the Washington Nationals. Yep.
Right. He has some steals in him. I'm pretty good in steals, but I think he might put me over the top when we get into the championship. That I could probably, with him, probably really tie up the steals. He's got a little, his eligibility is outfield.
Isn't that the league that we talked about the other day on air, where you already have lots of outfielders?
Well, the answer is that is true. That is true. But here's the two people I'm considering that I have that I think I have three people that are droppable for this quality of player.
Okay.
And trust me, if it wasn't him, I wouldn't even consider it. The first one would be Cesar Hernandez. I have plenty of second basemen.
He's probably droppable. Yeah.
Okay. The next option is Kyle Schwarber. The key with Kyle right now is he's not playing every day, and he gets me no steals, but he's getting me home runs, but I'm pretty good in home runs. So that's why I'm considering that. And then the last one would be Miguel Cabrera, first base. I also have first baseman. He's good at average right now. Does give me a home run here or there. But those are the three guys. Would you drop any of those three for Victor?
You know what? I like all of those players, and
I
a
do
lot
too.
of people have been down on Miguel Cabrera this year, and he hasn't hit the home runs that you're looking for.
But he's
But
batting.
he has hit the average. However, Cesar Hernandez also hits for average.
Right.
Cesar Hernandez can get you more steals than Miguel Cabrera can get you. I would drop Miguel Cabrera probably out of all those people because Schwarber at least is going to give you those home runs.
I kind of agree. I think Lou said he's had some internet problems, so we might have lost Lou again. But I think Lou might be right. I have a couple of people there that kind of give me the same thing. And Cabrera might be the guy, that I might have to move. But yeah, he's batting almost 300. Gets me no steals, a home run here or there. So that's kind of where I'm at. That was my baseball question of the day. And obviously I should have gone right into football so that Lou could get his internet up and running and, get me. Are you there again?
I am here again. And my thing is, I would probably drop Miguel Cabrera for Victor Robles here, because Cabrera is only going to help you really in one category, maybe RBIs as well, average and RBIs at this point in the year. Now, one thing to keep in mind with Robles, he does have more home runs than both Hernandez and Miguel Cabrera, so you would actually be potentially gaining some power. The one thing to keep in mind is from a stolen base standpoint, although he has compiled them this year, he does have 18. The majority of them have come in just 2 months. He had 7 in April. He had 6 in July. Every other month, no more than 2.
All right, but he has
this
2.
month, he has 1
this week. He has 2. He got another one today.
Okay. He had another one today.
Because here's my other thing. I also don't want who I play to get steals either. So part of this is also stopping someone else from getting some steals. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And the big thing also here to keep people informed is this is not a roto league. This is a head-to-head league.
That's right.
So you're not picking up Robles to put him in your lineup to get you steals overall. You're picking him up because if you're in a matchup against someone that has a lot of steals, you want to be able to compete with that category.
Right. Because I'm going to be in the playoffs.
Miguel Cabrera is not going to win you your matchup. Let's put it that way.
I agree. Other than just really batting average is all he brings, but that's all.
But that's a crapshoot week to week anyways.
Right. And that's all Hernandez was bringing either. They both were. And like I said, I'm pretty good at both of those first and second base. And unfortunately, the only reason I was thinking Schwarber is Schwarber's also an outfield. I do have a pretty tight outfield, but like you said, if steals become an issue, I can swap somebody out that's going to get me none and kind of play the matchups with pitchers.
So I can give you an example. I don't play much head-to-head anymore, but I am in a head-to-head league, and I have D. Gordon. I don't play D. Gordon very often. He's on my bench almost all the time. However, if I'm in a matchup where I need some stolen bases, and I have some guys like Acuna and like Trevor Story, those guys who do pick up stolen bases on their own. They're not known for their stolen bases. They're known for their power and everything else, but they do get stolen bases.
I have all those people.
Yes. Well, the point is that I have D. Gordon specifically for matchups where I'm playing against a team that happens to also get a lot of steals.
Right.
That's the reason why I have him. For that one reason alone.
Right.
In a Roto league, I'd probably play him every single day somewhere.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I have D. Gordon also. I have Story. I have Ozuna. I just thought this would put me over the top and kind of seal the steals category for me at a minimum to prevent the other guy from getting steals too.
Yeah. And again, I really don't think Miguel Cabrera is going to be a difference maker in a matchup unless all of a sudden he starts to smash home runs again in the end of August and into September. He's not going to win you your matchup.
I've heard a few podcasts talking about that they debated about sitting him now, that they're definitely out. They thought maybe they'd go ahead and rest him some and play some young guys. So that would be the other issue right now. How much is he even going to play the last month of the season? So
that's interesting because I haven't necessarily heard that. And if I'm the Detroit Tigers right now, and I still don't know why we're talking baseball because I thought we were doing baseball,
I've been sitting here since 10 o'clock with all my football stuff ready, and then it kind of popped up that this guy was available tonight on my waivers. I'm like, I need to
I have a question. When I popped out for like 30 seconds a few minutes ago, were you just in silence waiting for me, or did you blabber on about it?
Easy is never in silence.
Okay, so you were blabbering on about some bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry.
So just to finish here before we get to what we actually came here for.
Yeah.
The Tigers, to me, as a rebuilding team with a lot of young hitters, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for them not to have Miguel Cabrera in the lineup, because the one thing he can do, if he's not going to be hitting home runs anymore, he can help a lot of these young hitters become major league ball players. And when I say become major league ball players, of course, they're in the big leagues. They're technically major league ball players. But I mean guys that can come to the ballpark ready to play and produce day in and day out, a real pro. And that's what Miguel Cabrera is. And of course, he can have that impact on the bench, in the dugout, in the clubhouse. But
right.
He can lead by example. And having a guy like that in your lineup, you're still not going to win a lot of games. You're a terrible team. I'm sorry, Detroit Tigers, but you are. But he will help the young hitters in that lineup by being in there and playing. And that's what the Tigers should be the most focused on, is the development of their young players.
Well, where I read it was on Roto World, and it just said Cabrera's batting .333 with 4 homers and 4 doubles in the last 15 games. There has been talk at Detroit that he might get shut down for the season at some point, but that the recent surge would seem to make this less likely right at the moment. So that was just a Roto World blurb. So, all right, you answered that again. Tonight's about easy, so I'll ask whatever I want, and I needed that. I mean, this is a big league. There's a lot of pride on the line and cash. There's a lot of cash on this one, so hey, I needed to know. Thanks, Lou. All right, let's move right to the important stuff, and that's Easy's Football League. Quickly, it's a 12-person PPR, lots of scoring. It's all wide open. We get points for everything. Points for bonus runs, points for, 300 and 400 yard passing, points for 100 or 200 yards running, or catching passes. So it's all that stuff. It's a super flex. It is a keeper league. We can keep up to 3 players. It is, I think this is our 7th year, so it's pretty set. Most of the players are pretty decent. Seems like every year we rotate another guy in, somebody leaves. And again, it is a live draft. We have already selected our draft positions. I am picking on the turn. I am pick number 12. And that was my choice. So that's where we are rule-wise. Before we go past rule-wise, is there a rule you think you would want to know? Or is that pretty much?
Well, one thing I just want to make sure and clarify, because I'm assuming you didn't say auction, so I'm assuming the keepers are based on the round they were taken in, and I would imagine that if they were a 12th rounder, they're now an 11th rounder to keep.
It's actually 2 rounds.
Okay, so a 12th rounder is now a 10th rounder.
I will. Bam. There we go. I have it so I can share the thing. I don't know how well you can see it or what size screen you have. I don't. We have to. The draft is at noon. We have to turn in our keepers by 11, and then we can trade keepers now. We can trade draft spots now, but we have from 11 to 11:30 to continue any kind of conversation of trades or anything once people have actually said who they're keeping. I just knowing the players and the people in this league have gone down and picked what I think are the most likely keepers for most leagues or for most of the players. Obviously, the important thing right now is my keepers, which is a pretty good, which right now is a question that I need. I am the funky bunch. You guys know me as Easy Kill. This league, they just know me as Mark, but they call me Marky Mark. So obviously I am the funky bunch. And, so I have 3 people I can keep. Well, I actually have a few. Unfortunately, I probably have 5 keepers. The 3 I have here, the problem I have is all of my keepers, their draft positions were picked up after the draft. If somebody was not drafted last year, their keeper status automatically becomes an 8th rounder. Does that make sense? Draft day sets, if they were drafted, that is their keeper spot for the next year, period, regardless what happens. But if you pick them up on the waivers at some point or whatever, then they are 8th round. Then you get them for an 8th round. The problem I have is if I keep more than one, the next guy I have to keep in the 7th round. You know what I'm saying? I have to move up. You can't go backwards because that'd be not fair. You know what I'm saying? So if I keep 3 people, I would lose my 6th, 7th, and 8th pick. I don't know if that's confusing to you or not, but
no, I'm following you.
Okay.
Following you.
So
let's hear your options.
My first option, which I think is pretty set, would be Damian Williams.
What round?
Well, that's the point. If he's the only one I keep, I'd keep him in the 8th. I mean, all of my keepers are eligible in the 8th round because they're all waiver wire guys.
Okay.
So I could keep Damian Williams all by himself in the 8th.
That seems like a good buy, considering he right now is going, I think, towards the middle to end of the 3rd round.
That's correct. He actually 2 weeks ago he's going in the 2nd round. He's fallen a little bit because
anything I've looked at, anything I've projected myself, I have him in a 12-team league. I have him going in the middle of the 3rd, somewhere between pick 30 and 33.
And that's correct. The other player that I was pretty well committed to for most of the time, but he's also now a little bit hurt. That was Dante Pettis, wide receiver, San Francisco. I also, again, he was a pickup, so he'd have to be an 8th rounder. So in this case, if I kept Williams and Pettis, then one of them's a 7th rounder and one of them is an 8th rounder. Pettis is going in the 4th or the 5th, depending on he was going late 3rd, early 4. Now he's dropped to middle 4, late 4. And some people don't like him at all.
See, so that's interesting because I have Pettis right now going around pick 70 to 75.
Okay.
So that is what? That is, I guess that's about the 7th round, right?
No. Divided by 12, it wouldn't be.
Yeah. So okay. So we're talking. So I mean, so you're getting a bit of value there. Let's say it's the beginning of the 6th round.
Right.
You're getting a tiny bit of value there. Who are your other options? We're not going to count Pettis out because he could have a good season, especially with Garoppolo coming back another full year there. They have a better running game. Of course, they got Kittle. So absolutely, Pettis could be a nice pick for you. Probably could be a top 30 wide receiver this year.
I definitely think Pettis in the 8th was almost a no-brainer. I mean, if that's my decision, if he was my only keeper and it was in the 8th, I probably would not even think much about it. The next keeper obviously has changed drastically in the last few weeks, and that's Austin Eckler, who may be the starter, for Los Angeles, the Chargers. Today specifically, they sure make it sound more and more like Gordon is set and may just not play at all, or at least not play till the 10th or the 11th game of the year. So the same thing. If I keep only Austin Eckler, I can keep him in the 8th. The issue is if I keep all 3 of those, one of them has to be a 6th rounder, one has to be a 7th, and one would have to be an 8th. If I do it this way, Damian Williams in the 6th, Austin Eckler in the 7th, and Dante Pettis in the 8th, if that's the only way you look at it, based on most ADP, those are all values to a point.
Those are all values for sure. The least value would be Eckler, I think, because even with the Gordon news, I still look at Justin Jackson as a guy that's going to get a lot of work too. Eckler, because it's a PPR league, you're going to get a nice basement every week, I think, with Eckler.
Well, that's why I like Eckler a little bit, because even if Gordon comes back even week 1, meaning if I decide to make him a keeper Sunday, at least I don't feel I threw it away totally, because he will have some value as a PPR guy.
So in the rankings I have that I've been working with the last couple days, I'm pretty much all baseball until the middle of August.
know.
We're in the middle of August. I'm starting to really start to pay attention to this stuff. Eckler and Pettis are really a couple picks away.
I know.
From one another. So, I mean, if you're looking at it like that, from that standpoint, 85th pick, let's say the 85th pick or the 80th and the 85th pick, let's call it. So the 80th pick in this draft, you would go with Pettis. That would be the middle of round 6.
Right.
And the 85th pick, you'd go with Eckler. That would be first pick in round 7, essentially. So if you're taking Eckler in round 7, keeping him round 7, you're not really getting any value there. All you're getting is exactly where you think you're going to get him. You're just guaranteeing yourself to get him. With Pettis, at least if you take him in the 8th round, you're getting a round and a half, maybe 2 rounds later than you'd have to pay. And that's assuming his price doesn't continue to climb. You're drafting on Sunday. 2 weeks from now, he could end up being a top 40 guy, or he could fall to 100. You don't know. Damian Williams is the one guy I absolutely 100% think you should be keeping. Right now, I'm actually leaning towards you keeping just one player in Damian Williams around 8.
I kind of think that. Now, let me throw 2 more out that were questionable ones. In a 2-quarterback league or a super flex, I could keep Dak Prescott in the 7th. Just letting you know. He's probably going to get drafted in the 5th.
I wouldn't take Dak. I wouldn't keep Dak then.
You would or you wouldn't keep
I
Dak?
would not.
And I didn't
Dak
think
around
so
7.
I didn't think so either.
And that's coming from a Cowboys fan, so
I know
I'm completely unbiased.
And then the other one I had was would be, and you hear different things about it, and that's Curtis Samuel for Carolina. Some people really like him and have him. I could keep him also in the same round. He'd be an 8th rounder, depending on who else I keep. He was a pick.
I don't love any of those guys at those rounds.
All right. So right now, you would say, let's just.
What I need to tell you is you need to do a better job of drafting these guys last year, way later, so you could have kept them rather than having to pick them off the waiver wire.
I was the bbest team last year. I went 10-3. I did lose in the semifinals in a rare.
It happens.
I know, but I traded away my keepers. I had keepers and traded them away. And I picked these guys up at the end, not as keepers. I picked them up to help me my final week. So, I played the waiver wire. So for a long time, I did not play for keepers last year. So the fact I have any keepers is probably a good thing. Okay, I'm going to delete the keepers.
I'm looking into Dak Prescott a little more, where a lot of people are putting him.
Well,
he's going around pick 110 overall. So that's early 9th round now. So if you could get him in the 7th round, you're getting some value. But there's a lot of quarterbacks.
But in 2 quarterback leagues, he goes higher.
Yes.
In 2 quarterback leagues, now in this league, we do have one little hiccup on the 2 quarterback / superflex. We can only roster 2 quarterbacks.
Okay.
We have a minimum requirement and a maximum is 2. I mean, the minimum's 1, but we cannot have more than 2 quarterbacks ever on our roster. Now, here's my point a little bit. The only question was on Dak Prescott in the 7th. His schedule's pretty soft the first 3 weeks.
So last year, without all your bonuses and stuff, just the basic PPR type scoring, Dak was the 12th ranked quarterback. So in your league, he would technically have been a QB1.
In my league last year with our scoring, I'm looking at right now, I pulled up my last year's scoring. He was the 13th ranked quarterback.
Okay.
In my league last year.
So fairly close to what you have in the basic.
Right.
So
he's the number one.
In your league, he is a QB1.
Yeah.
Essentially. Which 7th round, actually really not terrible value. The problem I have right now is that without Zeke Elliott's future, there's no certainty around that. Dak's going to struggle a lot more this year if Zeke's not playing.
Right. I agree with that. I mean,
look at Dak Prescott. in 2017 when Zeke missed 6 weeks. That's the Dak Prescott you could be getting.
Yeah,
So
that's
be
true.
careful.
I agree with that. I'm not, and that's why I didn't have him up there to begin with, because this year in a 2-quarterback league, I've gone both ways on my mock drafts. I've taken 2 quarterbacks very early, and obviously it's not Dak Prescott. I've done a lot of things where I've said, you know what, I'm first couple of rounds, I've taken Aaron Rodgers. I've done the Cam Newtons, and those teams to me are okay. But I've also taken quarterbacks at the very end, and I've gotten, and I know people laugh, but I've gotten, Matthew Stafford, and Darnold, and
Can I tell you who you should be looking at? Easy.
Well, no, you can't, because we're going to start a mock draft here, and I'll let you tell me as we do the mock draft. How about that?
Okay.
Because right now I agree with you. I have mock draft a lot with just Damian Williams as my keeper, and that's going to be. I'm going to save my keepers right now. Which right now we're just going to go with Damian Williams in the 8th, which is by far a steal.
Yes, that is a steal and a half.
And I think that's worth keeping. We're going to start a mock draft with my scoring. Again, it's a PPR snake draft. I'm picking 12. 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, which to me is important, a tight end, super flex, and a regular flex. So we can technically start 4 wide receivers. I think that's big. I think that's big, and that's also why I'm picking 12 and 13.
Yeah, I already told you I would go wide receiver.
Our bench is 7 deep with 1 IR spot. Now, here's a tip to me on this league is it's an in-person draft. We do not have to draft a kicker or a defense, but we do have to have them on our roster by the end of the first.
By week 1. Yeah.
So I don't usually draft a kicker or a defense. I draft, guys that in the next couple of weeks might become starters or something. But so we will start the mock draft, and that way you can help me with some true decision making here. And hey, I'll be the first to tell you, I've done this a long time, and I mock a lot. A home league draft never turns out like any mock draft I've ever done. There's always things that are.
No, honestly, mock drafts are fun to do, and they're fun to see where you can get guys. But I don't put any weight into what happens in the mock, into what happens in the real draft, whether it's in draft, in-person draft, not in-person draft, whether you know the people or you don't. Every draft is going to be different.
Right. So we have started the mock draft, just so we know. And usually the first round here is pretty close. Barkley, McCaffrey, Elliott, Bell, David Johnson, Hopkins, Todd Gurley, Adams, Jones, Watson, and Thomas. The ones that change up a little bit is Julio Jones and Thomas. Sometimes they're available in 12. Sometimes they're not, depending on when you mock draft. Knowing the guys I'm drafting with, what just came up now is pretty normal. The guy drafting just in front of me is a New Orleans fan, so I'm sure Michael Thompson will be off the board, unfortunately, because he's actually who I'd love to get in the 12th, to be real honest. But that would leave me, and this is really, believe it or not, the first tough decision every time. Quarterbacks, if you want to go quarterback early, Aaron Rodgers. I know, I'm just saying. Running backs at the top right now would be Mixon, Cook, Kerryon Johnson. Wide receivers are Beckham, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans.
I would go Beckham and Evans.
And I have done both. I have also done Kelsey. The other two here, let me bring you this up here, just so you know. The other 2 big tight ends are keepers already. Kelsey is the only real big tight end that's available. Ertz, Kittle, who's the guy from the Rams? I think he's even could be a keeper. So that's the only question every time when I get to this point is taking Kelsey the first pick of round 2 is just that I know I'm getting, the only other real tight end that's available. Or I've learned not just punt tight end till the very end, and I've been getting Reed or Olsen or one of those guys. So if we go Beckham and Evans, which I like what you did there, because the reason I don't look at Tyreek Hill is I already have Damian Williams on that same team. I don't care all the time, but I wouldn't match up the running back with the wide receiver. I would the tight end with the running back if I thought that was going to be a thing. But
I also think the upside of Evans and OBJ are huge. And one of the things I was going to say is I'll pass on Dak where he's going and wait and take Baker Mayfield. I will take Jameis Winston. I will take Carson Wentz.
Yeah, we'll get there. So now just so you know, Odell. Now, and again, I don't look at this when I'm drafting either, but Evans and Odell Beckham are both week 7 buys. So I still think that gives me enough weeks to figure stuff out. But I don't know if that would make it. Do you care about that on your draft day?
I look at it, but when we're talking about elite talents, no, I don't.
And if it was week 4, I'd worry more. I think a lot will change by week.
Also, keep in mind that you could potentially trade one of those guys in week 5 or 6.
I agree. All right.
Or their buy.
Now, I will tell you of those 2 picks. I live in Ohio. Odell Beckham probably goes in the first round. I bet I don't have the option of Odell Beckham.
Well, I would prefer Michael Thomas.
I would prefer Thomas, but I don't think I'm going to get him. To be real honest,
Julio Jones would be just fine too.
Julio Jones is the one I'm hoping to get, to be real honest. So
yeah, I would be fine with any combination of those 4 guys with Thomas, Jones, OBJ, and Evans. You want 2 of those 4 guys.
Now I am picking at the end of round 3 who we have available. Wentz, Wilson, Goff. We have Josh Jacobs, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, Mark Ingram, Robert Woods, Galladay, Kupp, Lockett. So those
I would go running back, wide receiver here.
Okay.
I am a big Josh Jacobs guy. I know he's a rookie, but I'm a big Josh Jacobs guy in Oakland. And I really like Kenny Galladay as well.
All right. I don't mind Galladay.
Robert Woods.
I struggle with Josh. I am a rookie is a rookie is a rookie. I struggle with rookies, even in baseball. Me and you have had that conversation in baseball. I'm not a Chris Carson guy. I got to be real honest. This is where I struggle sometimes because I would like Woods and Galladay, which would go back to I
would say that Mark Ingram is a very safe, solid pick.
I just hate to take him in the 3rd or 4th round, but let's.
The thing is that based on where you're picking,
I know I won't.
Time you're going to be able to
come back.
Yeah. Right. So because you're on that turn pick, you're usually your 4th round pick on that turn pick is always a guy you're technically reaching for because you want them, and there's no way you're going to get them based on when you're going back next. Ingram's the safe pick, and also one of the big things I've been saying the last couple weeks is look at what guys like Kenny Dixon, Gus Edwards, a bunch of random journeymen, kind of garbage running backs did for the Ravens when Lamar Jackson was a quarterback. The threat of him running really opens up gaps in the line for the running back. Now they have a guy like Mark Ingram who is established, who has been a Pro Bowl type guy. I think Ingram could have the best year of his career, and that's saying a lot coming from that Saints offense.
Right. The first pick, though, I would take Galladay over Woods, only because my problem with Woods and Kupp and that group is you're just guessing out of the 3.
Targets. Yes, there's lots of targets to go around. Yeah. The player might have a safer floor every week of those Rams guys, but Galladay has the better chance every week to put up the big numbers.
So that gives me 3 starting wide receivers right now, which in this league you can start.
I was going to say, if you went Galladay and Ingram, you'd have a nice team going with OBJ, Evans, Galladay, Ingram, and Damian Williams. You'd be off to a pretty solid start.
And if we go Ingram, and all right, so Damian Williams, Mark Ingram, Odell Beckham, Mike Evans, Kenny Galladay, and now we're going to wait a bunch of picks. That's the problem when you're on the turn, obviously. Now, I can in this league always. This league being a 2-quarterback league isn't as bad as some where a bunch of quarterbacks go in round 1, 2, or 3. But I can tell you 4, 5, and 6, the quarterbacks just fly off. Now, that's my point. That's usually where I'm like, nah, F it. Everyone can take quarterbacks. I'm going to build my team, and I'll either trade for quarterback later, or I'll pick up somebody off waiver, or I'll pick up, hopefully one of my late rounders.
Also, easy. Being in a 12-team league versus a 15-team league allows you to do that because especially in your league where you can only own 2 quarterbacks.
Right.
That leaves 8 quarterbacks sitting out there.
And I'll be real honest, we're not there yet. If Ryan Fitzpatrick starts for Miami, that he can throw 300 yards. He's got nothing to lose. Just heave that ball up.
He's one of those dudes that can put up massive weeks at times.
Right. And right now, I can get him in the 14th probably. So
yeah, I would definitely want, if I'm you, to get one very solid quarterback, someone in the top 15.
Then let me name who we have, because right here's where we'd have to probably start making that decision. The 3 top quarterbacks on this board right now are Goff, Winston, Lamar Jackson, Phillip Rivers. Our top running backs are, which this is good, Chris Carson came back and Montgomery came back from last round. Even though they were both in this ADP ahead of Ingram. And then, and that also includes, we have Tevin Coleman there also. And wide receivers, we have Robbie Anderson, Corey Davis, Will Fuller, and Curtis Samuel. Here's the first, and 2 after that is Dante Pettis. And here's where I start looking. Those are both guys I could keep in the 7th, and they're already popping up in ADP in this draft in the 5th and the 6th. So, and I get it. I could still pick one of them a little early here, then I could keep him or whatever. But it is something I've been watching, is where my keepers that I don't keep show up, which is also Dak Prescott is already gone also based on this mock draft.
If this was me drafting right now, I'd probably go, because of the type of league you're in, I'd probably go with Phillip Rivers. I know exactly what I'm getting when I take Phillip Rivers. I'm getting a lot of touchdowns and a lot of yards and a lot of points. And there's no one else on that board that's going to put up as many fantasy points as Phillip Rivers.
Okay. Again, today's show is about who? Easy. So I'm going to ask the tough questions, Lou. Here's my point a little bit. I agree. And to be real honest, I usually end up getting one quarterback early anyway. I in my head, I always think I'm going to wait, and then I have trouble once I see them all go off the board.
Well, I'm saying in a one quarterback league, easy.
I know.
I'm waiting on Phillip Rivers for about round 9 or 10.
Right.
In a 2 quarterback league, if I need a quarterback, and the ones you named, I think Winston could have a very good year. I forget one of the other guys you mentioned now, because you've named a lot of names. But Rivers was the one that stood out to me as the guy where you know what you're going to get.
But let me throw a curveball at you. So right now we could have Rivers, and then I don't know. I don't even like the wide receivers right here, but we could have Carson and Montgomery and Rivers, blah blah blah. But I'm still looking. When I look at my lineup right now, Damian Williams and Mark Ingram, I think both still have a little question mark. Well, I kind of right now, if I was going to gamble on rookies, if I took Chris Carson and Montgomery right here, which either one of those has the ability to be a top, could be a top 8, top 5 running back.
I really like Montgomery. If I'm going to pick one, I like Montgomery because of what I've seen on film, but also a lot of the dynasty football guys that I've had the privilege of working with who know their rookies, who know their prospects. They all love this kid.
That's my point. Right now, would you want Rivers and Montgomery, or right now would you want Carson and Montgomery, and in maybe 2 or 3 more rounds, then come back and have Garoppolo and Stafford? See, that's where I
would not want Garoppolo and Stafford. I would want maybe one of them to go with a Rivers, but I would not want both of them in a 2 quarterback league. You will have the weakest quarterback in your league. Okay. I would go Rivers and Montgomery.
So we're going to go Rivers. You've convinced me. We're going to go Rivers. Now, the experts here tell me Robbie Anderson's who I need, but I think right now
you're wrong. You already have 3 wide receivers. You don't need
3 good ones. So I think we can take a chance. So I'm going to pick.
Has the potential to be a top guy too.
Montgomery. I'm going to take Montgomery. So, that's where we're at. Let's see what happens and see who moves around, because things change here. Now, again, almost all the people I would have kept are now gone. And now I'm picking in rounds where I would have gotten them. You know what I'm saying? Where I would be getting, like right now, I could get Pettis, but I can't. He's already gone. Right now, I could get Samuels, but I can't. He's gone.
Well,
Dak Prescott, he's gone.
This is very interesting because now look at what you have on paper. You have a quarterback, you have 3 wide receivers, and you have 3 running backs. Well, not technically, you don't have Williams yet. You're going to get him pick 8. So if you were to keep Pettis in round 7 and Williams in round 8, you'd finish up those rounds with top 8 rounds. You'd have Rivers, you'd have 4 wide receivers and 3 running backs. Looking like it might be a smart idea to take Pettis at this point and keep him in that 7th round, just because your 4th receiver is going to be him and your 3rd running back is going to be Williams. Even though he's going to end up probably being your RB2, he's going to be your 3rd running back coming. You're going to have your core already after those 8 rounds.
And the other way, though, is right now I could have Rivers and Dak Prescott. I mean, my pick right now, technically, if I would keep Dak Prescott, he would be who I'd be picking right now. And right now, I would rather have him than Cousins, Garoppolo, Darnold, or Stafford.
I can get behind that, especially because of the ability he has to run with the football. And this is a guy that's probably going to get you 4 to 6 rushing touchdowns.
And I still have Rivers. I mean, he's still my 2nd quarterback, meaning
that's that super flex spot. Yeah.
Right.
And if you look at, the whole thing is with the super flex, it's all about the points, right? I mean, we're talking about Pettis and we're talking about Dak Prescott. There is a big difference, in my opinion, in the amount of points you're going to get.
Because
Prescott's going to get you probably 300 or more.
Okay.
Pettis might get you 2/3 of that.
Right now, and let's do this one other way. The difference is right now, Pettis went earlier, but I don't think there's as big a gap between Pettis. I happen to be an Anthony Miller guy anyway. Pettis and Miller to me both could be the same. We have
We're also talking about a 4th wide receiver at this point.
I know. And that's my point. See, I think right now, with doing this, if the draft fell this way, I think I'd like to have Damian Williams in the 8th and Dak in the 7th.
Yeah.
Because right now, if I started everything, right now, I wouldn't have gotten this pick. Right now, my pick would be Dak Prescott. So I'd have Rivers, Williams, Ingram, Beckham, Evans, Galladay, Montgomery, and Dak Prescott. And I'd be getting ready to pick and not even that, I'm picking again because, no, I would wait again. I already have my 8. So then I'd have to wait until my 9th came around. So it'd be a little bit.
You essentially have your whole team already.
Right, except for tight end, which we haven't even looked at. Let's just see right now what our tight end options based on this. And they've gone pretty bad because there's so many keepers. McDonald, Ebron, Njoku, Harper.
I would take Njoku in a second.
Okay, but the key now would be we're not going to start to draft off, but we could say right now, let's say instead of picking, I'm just going to go ahead just to make it'll look stupid, but I'm just going to select Kirk Cousins, but we're going to pretend that's Dak Prescott. That makes sense?
Yep.
So that means I would have got that pick. The 8th is gone because that was my keeper for Damian Williams. So we just have to remember when it says Superflex Kirk Cousins, that would be Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
And that would be my point. I could see having both of them, but why not get Dak Prescott, who's gone at least one round before Kirk Cousins?
And who I think has a safer floor because of what he does.
And
in the running game.
He has an easy schedule for the first 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, Dallas has their schedule is cupcake at the beginning. So
yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Without Zeke, that offense is going to be a little more challenged.
Which again, to me, that's also worth a gamble in the 7th. Now, that's my point. If he doesn't come back, I still think Dak will get me 2nd QB points. And I can always, hell, have you ever dropped a 7th round pick? I think we all have. I mean, if I have to drop him later and pick up Fitzpatrick dude, that's what I do.
I decided to go with Amir Abdullah in the 5th round in his rookie season, and it did not work out for me.
No, you're right.
Okay, we've all made mistakes.
Now, let's go now. Let's just to make sure tight end, we have McDonald, Ebron, Hooper, Delaney Walker, Reed, or At running back right now, we have Latavius Murray, Jordan Howard, Darrell Henderson, McCoy. Wide receiver, we have Scantling, Golden Tate, Funches, Tyrell Williams.
So I'm a big David Njoku guy, personally. I also predicted tonight on Sports Overnight America, a serious show.
Hold on.
The Baker Mayfield is going to win the MVP award. And
Right.
if that's the case, then you want OBJ and you want David Njoku.
But Njoku went before when I told you he was available, that was before, that was at the 7th pick. He already got
Gotcha.
drafted. He's not an option.
Okay. So give me those top tight ends again.
You got to remember, I'm in Ohio. He's probably going to go even earlier. I mean, the Cleveland and the Cincinnati guys all go a round or two early.
Yeah.
So right now, and I do have 2 picks coming right back to back, 9 and 10. My tight ends are Vance McDonald, Ebron Hooper, Delaney Walker. And then it drops off.
Okay, well, Hooper is fairly safe because he's going to get a bunch of receptions. Matt Ryan targets him a ton. He had 88 targets last year. I believe that there was only 7 tight ends that had more targets than Hooper last year.
All right.
So that's something to keep in mind for
Now,
sure.
And here's where Easy will argue. The fantasy fan in me goes, at this rate in tight ends, I'm willing to wait another 2 picks because I happen to be at this point willing to gamble on Reed, Graham, Olsen.
Absolutely. What I'm about to say to you is don't take a tight end now.
That's okay. Because
And if you are going to do it, definitely don't take Olsen. If you want a tight end in Carolina, take Ian Thomas.
we'll argue over that, but I still think Olsen. I think they're going to throw to Olsen, but that's okay. To me, it comes down to, do you like any running backs in that area? And that is Murray, Howard, Henderson, McCoy, maybe Balaj down here could be a starter. I'm not sold on any of them, but I have to tell you, I'm a big fan of Scantling, and believe it or not, I like taking Tate. And with the wide receivers I already have.
Wait, you're saying Golden Tate?
Yes,
He's suspended.
that's fine. Here, listen to me, because of the wide receivers I already have, I can set what I would call somebody who's going to get a lot of. I think he's going to get it in a PPR. I think they're going to hit him a lot once he comes back. And I have good wide receivers, so I think I need to gamble on my wide receivers at this point. Am I overthinking that? Meaning,
I would actually go the other way. I would say go with Jordan Howard. Go with a running back that's proven, that's in a very good situation, a very good system. And although they have a lot of running backs, he still should be the main guy between the tackles. This is a guy that is a touchdown machine throughout his career.
He did split time tonight in preseason with the number ones. They ran both of their running backs.
That's fine. You're still looking at likely double-digit touchdowns from Jordan Howard.
All right. So Jordan Howard, right now.
I mean, in what was considered a down season from Jordan Howard last year, he still had 935 yards and 9 touchdowns.
Right. In a different offense, though. But I don't have a problem getting a little bit of Philly's offense. They're one of the most powerful offenses. They're just hard to dictate. Now, at this point, are you going with another running back? I'm a big Scantling guy, or to be honest, I'm willing to gamble and hope I get the number 2 in Green Bay. And I know some people are on, and I just forgot, not Scantling. Who was the other? They have Adams as their number 1, and then it's Scantling. I forgot who the other guy is there. He just went in the last round before he did.
You're talking about Green Bay Packers wide receivers?
Yes.
Oh,
you got pulled up there.
Yeah, they have. They had two rookies from last year, Scantling and I'm blanking too. And
yeah,
I'm not really a blanker.
My point is, I'm willing to
Brown. Maybe is it St. Brown?
No, I don't think that's right. And unfortunately, I'll have to.
Geronimo Allison.
That's it, Geronimo Allison.
Oh yeah, so I wasn't thinking about him because I was thinking about the rookies. He's
But
been
that was-
around for a while.
Yeah, but
Geronimo
but he was drafted in the last round. I like grabbing one of the Green Bay guys here because, again, if you happen to get the number 2, it's not a bad flex play or a bad guy to have on your bench, especially for bye week. Other than that, the other option to me is Golden Tate.
So can I tell you something very football-esque that's not a fantasy thing, but should lead to him being the second receiver in Geronimo Allison? He's considered to be a very good blocker,
right?
Very good run blocker. They don't say that about Scantling. So if you're looking at guys that's going to be on the field more often, you look at Geronimo Allison as that guy.
All right, but somebody already took him. I don't have that option.
I know. I'm just saying from a fantasy perspective standpoint, if you're looking,
would you rather take Scantling or Tate? I still think after four weeks of suspension with my wide receivers, I can afford.
I'll be honest, I don't want any New York Giants offense except for Saquon Barkley.
Now, I mean,
and Evan Ingram.
The fantasy fan in me, I think now you're talking as a football fan. The fantasy fan tells me even on bad teams, someone has to catch passes and score. Even bad teams do score a touchdown every week.
I agree, but I don't think the Packers are that good of a team either. I think they have a much better offense than the Giants, though.
All right. So it's Scantling.
And a much better quarterback. And Aaron Rodgers is going to spread that ball around.
Here's another name I'll throw up there. John Brown is the number 1 in Buffalo, and I think they're going to throw a lot, even though they're not going to score a lot either.
I don't like John Brown simply because he's completely boomer bust.
Okay.
I'm not a boomer bust type of guy unless it's DFS.
Now I'm going to take us all the way back to the beginning. Based on this argument, then, even though this is one draft pick down, based on all that argument, I would like to have Pettis here instead. Then I wouldn't have to worry about it. Pettis to me is better than all these wide receivers. So that would mean my keepers would be Pettis, Pettis in the 8th, Dak in the 7th, and Williams in the 6th.
But what does that do to who did you take in the 6th round before then?
I took in the 6th round, I took David Montgomery. Well, I think now I say it though, I'd rather have Montgomery than Pettis.
Yeah.
Well, but Galladay, but see what I have picked Galladay if I had Pettis. I think it goes all the way back to there. I might have taken a running back instead of Galladay if I knew I already had Pettis. Does that make sense? I mean, we're going way back. Galladay I took in the 3rd, but if I started with Pettis already, I could have started with Beckham, Evans, and then a running back, again, maybe better than Montgomery. See, that's my problem. These keepers, every time I do the draft and look at it again, I'm like, maybe I should have just kept them, because they all have some value, and then it just makes it harder here.
Easy. You're thinking too much like a fan. That's why we're not enough like a professional podcaster that you are now. I
am gonna change it up.
You gotta make your mind up. You gotta stick to your guns. And I gotta tell you, the best lineup that you've given me would be where you have Dak in round 7, Damien Williams in round 8, and you're getting the 3 wide receivers early, and you're getting Phillip Rivers, and you're getting Montgomery and Ingram to go with Damien Williams. That is your ideal team.
All right. Then
now, obviously, it might not be Evans and OBJ, but or Galladay, but you're getting 3 big time wide receivers.
Right. Here's the last thing, and that is, I think when I look at it now, to me, the best player available right now, regardless what I need, I think actually is Latavius Murray. If he does what Ingram did last couple of years in New Orleans, he's a pretty good, decent backup. And if Kamara goes down, I think he's a number 1. What do you think? I'm just not a fan.
I do think that Murray is going to see his fair share of touches because they're not going to want to run Kamara into the ground, especially not early on in the season. That's why it was always smart to have. That's why Ingram and Kamara always both got drafted relatively high. So I do think Murray has some decent value, and Murray did a pretty good job as a Minnesota Vikings for a team that didn't run the ball as much as they probably should have. Right. I do like Latavius Murray. Where are we talking about drafting him?
you're more the, and that's why I wanted you on. That's why I want to do the show, because I sometimes overthink, because I do come at this as a fan. And as a fan, when I get stuck in a draft, I just pick the best player if I need him or not. Meaning, if I'm not really sure, I just go, you know what? This by far, I think, is the best player available. I'm just going to take him, and then I'll figure it out later, or trade, or this. And I know it's people say every time, I'm not going to say this to make my decisions sound more realistic, but this is a very active league. I might have made 20 some trades last year, meaning, we do a lot of trading. So I don't ever have a problem taking the best player if I'm stuck. You think that's a bad strategy?
I don't think that's a bad strategy at all. Especially in an active league like that where there's lots of trades. You take the best player because you're probably going to be able to flip that player for something you do need later on.
And technically right now I have my core starters. So
yes, that is the other key is
right.
Until those bye weeks come around or you get bitten by the injury bug, you have your core. Right. After that, you're drafting best player available and guys who might have good schedules on when your other guys have a bye. Like, for instance, when are Damian Williams and Mark Ingram's bye weeks?
Ingram is the 8th. Damian Williams is the 12th.
Okay. And in week 12, Latavius Murray takes on Carolina. And in week 8, he takes on Arizona. Neither team has a tremendous I would say Carolina is a little tougher because of their linebackers play. But Arizona, although they brought in Terrell Suggs, he's like, 37, 38 years old. Arizona could probably be run on no problem, especially by the Saints. And the Carolina game is in New Orleans, so is the Arizona game. And we know how good the Saints are in New Orleans. So right then and there, Latavius Murray at home with that New Orleans offense, I like that. I don't care who he's playing if he's in New Orleans for those matchups. So that's the type of thing. That's where you start to look at the buys. Not so much about the guys you've drafted, but the fill-in guys, what are their schedules like when you actually need to use them?
So you like Murray at this point. One, he's the highest ADP. I think he has, and he does have a, you hate to say an injury, but he does have, he wouldn't just become a number one. He could become the number one running back. I think that's who we have to pick here.
When you say the number one running back, you mean in New Orleans, not in the league, right?
No, I think in the league. I think there's
no chance. There's too many talented running backs with much more talent than
that. Time out, Mr. Lander Talks or whatever, whoever you are at the sportscrew.com. If Kamara is being picked in the top 3, and what I mean overall, a lot of mocks, a lot of things I see online, a lot of expert drafts, Kamara is being picked, if not in the top 3, the top 5 draft period. I don't think Murray, with his catching skill, will be that far.
Oh, dude, you cannot even remotely compare those two guys' skill sets. Kamara is so explosive. Kamara is one of the best route running backs I've ever seen in my life. Believe it or not, in my life. The dude might be small and fast, but he is strong as a bull. Latavius Murray is like a high school football player in comparison to Alvin Kamara. Not that low, but the point is the two are not even remotely comparable.
Okay, you're wrong. Let's move on. I drafted him. Okay, so I think now we definitely have to look at another wide receiver, and I think we really have to look at a tight end and see where we're at there, unless something major falls at running back. Let me real quickly, the two options at running back, which could be starters, and that's Breida and Ballage. At wide receiver, we have, and I could go down a big list now. It's Brown, Crowder, Hamilton, Stills, Sanu, Albert Wilson, Adam Humphries. So it's a pretty.
Tell me some tight ends. This might be a perfect time to take a tight end.
At this point, at the very top, ADP wise, is Vance McDonald. Austin Hooper is still there. Delaney Walker. If
where I'm starting to look at Hooper or Delaney Walker. I like Delaney Walker, but he's much older now. I worry about the fact that he was injured as much as he was last year. I think Austin Hooper is a safe pick at tight end. Austin Hooper is the type of guy that can get you through the first chunk of your season, before potentially trying to make a trade for a bigger name tight end.
ADP here has McDonald much higher than Hooper, and Pittsburgh does throw it a lot to the tight end if McDonald now is in the system for a whole year. So, I don't disagree. To me, it's McDonald or Hooper by far. And just to throw it out there, because I missed that, Carlos Hyde, which some people say may not make the team. Other people think he's the handcuff, and some people even think he's going to share with Damian Williams is available. And then, to me, the best running back right now is Hamilton at Denver, because they're not going to throw a lot, and he could end up being their number one. So, and we have 2 picks back to back here, so we're going to have to look at all those. So, I think I agree with you. I want something of Atlanta's.
Look, if you're going to go with a later round tight end, you go with a guy that has stayed moderately healthy, which McDonald has not done. You go with a guy who gets a ton of targets, which Hooper does. Again, I'll read you the list of guys who had more targets last season.
I got you, Harper. It's not an argument I was willing to fight. No,
but I just want you to realize Njoku and him were tied in targets. After that, ahead, Jimmy Graham by 1 target. Jared Cook, Ebron, okay. Kittle, Kelty.
Time out, Landers stalking Landers. But here's the thing, though, that I look at a little different. Coming from, I watch a lot of Pittsburgh games. I also, as a fan, will look at the system. The Pittsburgh system throws to the tight end. And here's the thing. They throw to the tight end even more when Brown is hurt. Brown isn't even there. So I'm just saying, Ben Roethlisberger is going to throw the ball. He doesn't have the same crew that he's had. Actually, McDonald is the one person who's been there for now a year compared to the other wide receivers. And Connor catches passes, but isn't what people would call a pass catching running back. So that's my thing. I look at the system as much as I'm looking at McDonald.
See, it's funny because I take the other approach. I think McDonald benefited greatly from there being an Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster on the outside, because they actually, the defenses would essentially filter the passing to the middle of the field because they try to take away those other 2 guys. With Brown gone, McDonald, in my opinion, is going to get a lot more attention.
Okay. I mean, and that's fine. Like I said, I took Hooper. We're arguing now, but I think I'd be happy with either one. Because to be honest, if I'm not getting either one of them, I am waiting. I'll wait another more.
If I had to take one of them to have the bigger game of the year, like who's going to have the bigger day of the year, I'll take Vance McDonald, because there will be a day where he gets 100 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns and is the highest scoring tight end. I don't think Hooper's going to be the highest scoring tight end in any one week, but Hooper's going to be consistent.
And I don't like this as a fan. I don't, when people say, well, it depends on how your team's constructed. Because my argument always is, my idea is I'm trying to structure the best players, period. So, but that being said, my team is structured to where I just need my tight end to get normal. I have pretty good people at the other spots. I need my tight end to come in at 10 or 12. I don't need 20. I don't need 15. I just don't want 3. You know what I'm saying? So, get
in a PPR league is usually good for a solid 6 to 8 points.
Okay. And now,
at the very least,
if you're saying that's a normal league, in our league, that's 10, because we get points for everything. So, I'm just saying. Now I took Hooper. Unfortunately, we're still at a point where there's not a whole lot. Now you're looking at backups, handcuffs. When I say handcuffs, I always try to get someone else's handcuffs, because I'm hoping we're drafting 2 weeks before the season. Anybody could get hurt, so I'm willing. I hope my running back doesn't get hurt. If someone else's does, I don't mind having their handcuff.
Or at the very least, you might be able to get something for that handcuff, because they're going to be desperate to get them.
Oh, I agree. Right. That's my point. I think that is an option. But running backs right now, I really don't think. I think we have to get some kind of wide receivers here because, again, unfortunately, I do have 2 that are on bye in week 7. Again, I know that's quite a ways out, but we do right now only have 3 starting wide receivers. Actually, we only have 3 wide receivers, period. And we have 5 running backs. So we are pretty now, and I think that's good the way we're set up because we need one of those running backs to be a number 1, and we hope one of the others ends up being a good number 2 or whatever. So wide receivers, we're looking at John Brown, Crowder, Hamilton, Kenny Stills, Sanu, Wilson. I mean, it's just, I hate to say it, potluck, but John Brown is definitely the number 1. Kenny Stills should be the number 1. And Hamilton 50-50 being number 1. At this point, I like taking somebody that's probably going to be a number 1, even if it's on a bad team.
That is true. And my issue with John Brown is there is absolutely no consistency whatsoever, at least with Kenny Stills. And yes, it's a brand new quarterback for him, but it's a brand new quarterback for John Brown too. At least with Kenny Stills, you know you're going to get some consistency.
Okay. I agree 100%. Here's where we might not argue, but I got a feeling I can get Stills in one more round. I think we can go another group of picks. And
also, what I was going to say, though, is from a bench standpoint, I prefer the home run hitter.
Which is Brown. Stills or Brown? See, Brown.
I prefer the home run hitter as my bench guy in Brown. Right.
See, I do too. I like Brown because Brown, if he has a good game, he's going to get you over 100. I mean, his good game isn't 6 for 80. His good game is 5 for 120 and a touchdown.
Yeah, and if he gets off to a hot start, that's another dude that you can sell high on.
Boom. That's who we picked. And let's see what happens. And obviously, we did lose Kenny Stills, but we still have Hamilton. But here's the deal. Now we have Albert Wilson and Devontae Parker back to back. And here's another name that comes up that could be a number 2 on New Orleans, and that's Tre'Quan Smith.
I love Tre'Quan Smith.
Okay. We have 2 picks here.
Fan of Tre'Quan Smith.
We have 2 picks. I don't think we can go wrong with 2 wide receivers here. We still have Balaj. We have Samuels for Pittsburgh. The nice thing about Samuels for Pittsburgh, he's kind of a handcuff that could also get playing time, where if something happens to Connor, Samuels to me isn't a bad guy to have on the bench. That's kind of it.
I would go with Tre'Quan Smith. I would have taken Tre'Quan over John Brown.
Okay. Well, it's just he's so much farther down on ADP, but I agree. Tre'Quan Smith is somebody I have as a target. And now we still have another pick. So now the deal is, do you want to still take a shot at maybe getting the number 1 in Miami, which would be the young guy Wilson? Or does Devontae Parker finally have that breakout? I mean, at this point, it's round 9. No, we're not round 9. Hold on. Hell, we're
later than that.
We're round 14. So if I have to drop somebody, I drop them. I don't care. The other thing is we have, I'm trying to think, Ito Smith, Justin Jackson, CJ Anderson, Giovanni.
I would take Jackson for sure.
Justin Jackson?
Yeah.
We're pretty running back heavy, but we're
talking about a potential starter.
Okay. Justin Jackson is who I took. And we're down now to 2 spots on our bench and a kicker and a D. But for our sake, I think we're just going to draft 4 more players because, one, I think that helps more people out there. And that's what I do anyway. I got to go through 2 preseason games. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to have to be moved and picked up. So I'm now drafting people. 2 things now. Let me explain this. I've got 4 picks to go. I now am looking for people who will be starters and decent ones if someone gets hurt. Or I'm looking for people who could be keepers next year. Okay. So obviously I definitely would look at a rookie that might not even be a starter, might even be the 3rd guy, but everyone go, hey, but next year he could be the number 1. You know what I'm saying? Because the way our thing goes, where they're drafted now is what sets their value for next year. So in some cases, if I have to trade the guy in week 5, I have the argument of, hey, this guy next year could be a number 1, or whatever, and he's more trade bait. So, which is what I did last year. Last year, I had Baker. I picked Baker in the 17th, and then ended up trading him when he became a starter. Now I wish I'd have kept him. He ended up doing well, but I moved him before he played game 1 because I got Zeke Elliott. So I didn't.
Well, it was certainly worth it.
I didn't do bad. So
yeah, that's like a basic keeper trade in a league. You're trading a guy that's going to have round 15 value next year in Baker Mayfield.
There was more players involved.
Yeah, no, that's the gist of it. Is you're trading a guy that's going to be very useful for this guy in round 15 to try and win with Zeke.
Okay, but that's my argument here is, and why I explain all that is right now these 4 picks are more important than just, a lot of home leagues, people go, it's the end of the draft, it doesn't matter. Well,
no, these are the picks where you go with first and second year guys who you think are going to explode onto the scene.
Let me, we have Ito Smith. Can you see? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if it's easier. I
can't really see that. No, okay. But that's okay.
We have Ito Smith. We have Damian Harris for New England. Again, he's one of those that if things go right next year, he could be because Sony Michel's always getting hurt.
I assume that N'Keal Harry's gone, right?
I do not see him in the next 25 running backs.
Wide receivers.
No, he is gone.
Okay.
So we have Enunwa, Goodwin, Foster, David Moore, Tyler Gabriel, Zay Jones, A.J. Brown, Trey.
I like Goodwin.
Huh?
I like Goodwin.
I don't have a problem with Goodwin because here's back to
really good athlete.
I wouldn't consider Goodwin if we had Pettis. The key is if Pettis struggles, Goodwin could be at least a decent number 2.
Goodwin is a really good athlete with big play potential.
Right. Nelson Aguilar.
Another guy I like too.
Here's another one, but I don't think he'll be here in our league. John Ross right now is on this list. And with AJ Green being hurt, he's going to be there. And people forget
I would take Aguilar.
Early draft pick. Well, we have 2 picks here. Another person that I like late, some people don't, but somebody in Washington has to catch a ball. And Paul Richardson to me is athletic. So that's our wide receivers. On the running backs, the 2 names that I like because something could happen, that's Jamal Williams, because we still don't know 100% who's going to be the running backs in Green Bay. And
it's probably going to be Aaron Jones, but yeah.
Okay, but we're talking picks that we're talking people we can drop now. Yeah. So, and we're talking people that I have 2 preseason games to go. If someone gets hurt, he becomes a starter. To me, that's what I look for right now. I look for people I can cut to pick up my defense and my kicker, and if someone gets hurt in the next 2 weeks, could be the starter. And here's another name I'll throw at you that could also be that, and that's Giovanni Bernard. If something happens to Mixon, Giovanni Bernard is going to be the starter, and he catches balls and has some value as a player, even if Mixon is playing. I know I'm a homer.
No, but man, Gio was a really good pickup for people when Mixon got hurt last year.
Yep. And that's the point. If I get him here and Mixon survives the preseason, I can drop him or keep him just in case. But to me, the 2 running backs I'd be looking at would be Williams and Bernard, because if somebody gets hurt the first 2 weeks of preseason or the last 2 weeks or the first week of the season, they're droppable if no one gets hurt, but they're also 2 guys that could be starters if someone does get hurt.
Yep.
So
that's true.
If we go Giovanni Bernard here, and then I would turn around and
I kind of like your Richardson call because someone does have to catch the football.
Do you like him over Goodwin? And here's my argument on Goodwin.
No, only because I think Goodwin has the big play potential.
And Goodwin is what? This is his 3rd year, right?
Yes, Goodwin has a chance, in my opinion, to be a potential star. He just hasn't done so yet.
Which
Richardson's to me is kind of like that possession type receiver.
here's my argument why I would go with Goodwin then. Because if Goodwin has a so-so season and I just ride him on my bench and he takes off at the end of the season, he now would have round 14 value next year because I'm getting him in the 16th. He would move up too. So that's one of the players I look for at this point. Somebody
yes, I would have taken Goodwin in round 13 or 14 potentially. So in round 16, I'm definitely jumping on that bandwagon.
Right. So that's what I've got. Now, technically, that would fill up our lineup besides a defense and a kicker. And just while it's doing its picks, right now, we would have Phillip Rivers, Damian Williams, Mark Ingram, Odell Beckham, Mike Evans, Kenny Golladay, Austin Hooper, David Montgomery. In the super flex, we would have Dak Prescott because we're going to
Dak in seventh. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we would have on our bench Jordan Howard, Latavius Murray, John Brown, Traquan Smith, Justin Jackson, Giovanni Bernard, Marcus Goodwin. So
that is some very, very deep running backs on the bench. I really like the running backs there. I can guarantee you're going to be able to flip one of those guys at some point if you have them, because one of them will take over and get consistent carries.
And we have protection if, let's say, Damian Williams doesn't work out. Maybe Damian Williams isn't the guy. You know what I'm saying? At a minimum, Damian Williams now could go on our bench. We could start Montgomery and Ingram and then use, Murray or Howard as a flex, if we had to. So the key now would be we could pick a kick or whatever, or the last few picks that now we would be looking at somebody who would have some type of value next year as a keeper. And unfortunately on this list, it doesn't mark him. We still have Paul Richardson out there. We still have John Ross. To me, John Ross could have value as a keeper.
My guy would be a guy I would look at in your situation would be Darwin Thompson, the running back in Kansas City, who could actually end up being the guy if Damian Williams doesn't work out. He has a lot more upside than Carlos Hyde, although Carlos Hyde is the steady guy. Darwin Thompson is the guy to look at, and I know he's been seeing a lot of reps with the first team offense.
And he was taken before our pick.
I'm just telling you, someone to look at in your actual draft after round 13 or so. Darwin Thompson. In fact, our good friend Double A, in his Dynasty League, I had him take Darwin Thompson. He asked me about him. I said he's a Chief and has a chance to play, and that sold him as a Chiefs fan. But in all seriousness, he has been playing a lot of first team reps lately, and he's one of those dudes that's really small. He's like 5'8" or so, but he's explosive and can catch the ball in the backfield.
All right, let me give you a couple other options now just to help people and maybe give you my idea. Something I'd look at now here too is we do have an IR spot. So right now, if I pick someone who's IR eligible at the end of my draft, I can put them down there and see what happens. And also that would set them up for next year having some value. And believe it or not, the one I've thought about is Theo Riddick. If I get Theo Riddick in this 18th and put him on my IR for as long as I can, next year I could keep him as a 16. If he ends up being, a number 2 or a decent PPR there. You also have Marquise Lee at Jacksonville is one of those that's IR. He's going to be hurt. I think he could be out for 4 to 8 weeks, but that's an option. Other than that, this is where I look at rookies. The other person would be Callaway in Cleveland. Still a very good wide receiver. He's suspended, but the same thing. If I pick him up now, hold on to him for a little while and see what kind of keeper value it has based on how my league goes.
Yeah. One guy you said that I would suggest not doing much with at this point would be Theo Riddick, because there's a lot of competition
in Denver.
There. There's Lindsey, there's Freeman, and I think even Booker is still there. So that's 3 guys ahead of him for sure.
And then here, I'll throw out one more name that the homer in me. I still don't think 17 and 18th there's a problem with putting Tyler Eifert on your. I mean, I'd have no problem with Tyler Eifert.
If he could just stay healthy, he'd actually still be productive.
Well, without AJ Green, I think what will happen is they're going to play him within the 30-yard line. Once they get to the 30 and in, I think you're going to see him on the field. So he's not going to get 100 yards, but he could get 6 catches and 1 or 2 touchdowns. So that would be somebody to look at. I'll throw one more name out, believe it or not. Frank Gore is available and still could be the starter in Buffalo.
You know what? He actually could be, because I think Shady McCoy's time as being a legitimate.
When is the last time you would get a number 1 running back on a starting team for the 17th round?
Not the number 1 right now, but he could be at some point. But
I think in the next 2 weeks we'll know.
Bills, as recently as last week, told McCoy he is the guy. You are the guy in our backfield.
All right. And I'll throw out another name. What about Doug Martin? I'm still not sure what's going on in that backfield. We can say we know, and I know who you liked early on, but you know what? A rookie can be a rookie, and next thing you know, Doug Martin could also be the guy there. Now, I also know they have they have a third down back. I wanted to say Rashard. I don't think it's Rashard. I want to say Washington, but I know that's not it either. But I do know they do. Maybe it is Rashard.
Jalen Rashard, the pass catching back in Oakland.
But again,
that's what you're thinking about. That might be who it is. I mean, I think Jalen Rashard had over 60 receptions last year.
All right. Well, to just close this out, I am going to draft the Cleveland Browns defense, which has a real terrible. They play like Jacksonville, I think, or Tennessee in week 1. So I always look for a streaming type defense the first week. And then I am going to take, just so we get a good point, I'm going to take Justin Tucker as my kicker. And because we've gone on over an hour now, so we want to end that. But just to let people know, though, if you draft in a league where you don't have to pick a kicker in a defense, pick and especially if you're drafting 2 weeks before the season starts, you know what? Pick players that might be starters when the season starts. So, they gave us a C+, but again, I think that's just because their ratings are always crappy. But Lou, I think that was a good exercise. You answered a lot of the questions I had.
It's how you start, man. It's how you finish. And I was talking with Lucas on Lucas Baseball, which is going to air tomorrow at 6 a.m. on the East Coast. We were talking, it's especially in baseball, football, basketball, hockey, fantasy leagues, you can potentially lose the season at your draft, but you don't win at your draft. It's about the trades you make and the waiver wire pickups that you make.
I agree.
Fantasy, especially for football and baseball. The goal is in football, if you're not drafting as many players, there's not as many positions, there's not as many categories. Draft a core of players that you think you can rely upon in the 16 weeks they're going to be playing.
Right.
And build upon that through the waiver wire.
And I'm a worker. I mean, I do work, and again, it's a keeper league. So even if I've never been not competitive. My teams have always been in the playoffs and all that. But I'm also, if something happens and I go south in a hurry, I will work with my keeper. I'll have better keepers next year because I'll trade off. I'll get my keepers for next year. But I do think that experiment or that little thing, though, did tell me that probably putting Dak Prescott in as the round 7, because even if it goes south early on and I don't get any quarterback, if in round 7 my first quarterback is Dak Prescott and I do have to come back later and use a Fitzpatrick or a Stafford or somebody as my number 2, I don't feel that's as bad as if I'm not guaranteed any quarterback. So, again, in this draft, in most of them, they have Dak Prescott going about the 5th, maybe early 6th, where if I can just keep him in the 7th, he's just better than some of the options that were out there. I'd rather have him than half the quarterbacks out there, which is hard to say because he was in the top half last year, so he finished 13. So I think that's it, Lou. Anything else? Any good advice? Give me a couple tips if you're getting ready to go do a live draft. Besides, don't forget the buns and the barbecue sauce.
Honestly, we've really gone over them, man. I think it's obviously, some of the obvious things are know your league settings.
Yep.
You'd be surprised how many people go to a draft and don't actually know their league settings. Or their league
Even the easy ones. They don't even know the easy ones,
Yeah.
like
So
PPR.
know that.
or-
Know if you do know where you're drafting, especially in the type of draft you're doing, you know where you're drafting. In other leagues, sometimes it's not done until 30 minutes before, and then you don't really know. But if you know where you're drafting, have some sort of a plan. Look, if you're drafting, where you were, let's say at the turn, you say there's going to be 4 guys. 2 of those guys are going to fall. Those are the guys I'm going with.
Yeah.
Try to project. Try to give yourself. And for me, in these drafts, I try and look at each spots I'm picking in, and I try to give myself 4 or 5 players I will take in that spot. And typically 1, 2, even 3 of them fall.
Right. And you did the same thing I did. Our league's a very heavy scoring league, and we can start up to 5 wide receivers in a PPR. And that's why I think wide receivers in this format, especially picking at the end, is pretty good strategy. But I'm also one of those that, hey, and I've done it a few times. If it falls just right, I'm not against getting, Todd Gurley at the turn, and start with Julio Jones and Todd Gurley.
Yeah. And for me,
Williams.
I would say, obviously, an auction's totally different. But I can tell you, in the last 5 years, since I've been using in snake drafts, PPR, the wide receiver heavy draft, I've never missed the playoffs.
Well, right. And I've heard in 2 different podcasts in the last week or two the statistic, and I'm not going to know, and I apologize that I don't know who did it, but the odds of your wide receivers getting hurt and losing at least 4 games,
much less than that of a running back.
Much less than the running backs.
Well, yeah, they're getting hit a lot less, and they're not getting hit much by linemen and linebackers.
Right. And again, in a PPR where you're getting a lot more points, and in a league where you can start 5 wide receivers, that gives you a huge advantage. If you have 5 starting wide receivers compared to the other guy, he might have that one running back that's going to get 40 points, whatever. But if you've got 4 wide receivers that are going to get 30 points,
unless I'm drafting in the first 3 picks, I'm almost assuredly taking a wide receiver, because I'll even take Hopkins at number 4.
I would also.
However, in those top 3, no. I'm looking at McCaffrey or Kamara personally.
How far personally, being a Zeke guy, how far right now, if you were picking this weekend, where would you put Zeke?
This weekend, where would I take him? Where
would you take him?
So for me, I won't, because again, I'm a wide receiver first guy. But if I was interested in a running back and Zeke fell after pick 6 or 7, I would definitely be starting to look very carefully at taking him, because one thing we also talked about, Ron and I, on the Sirius show this week, is the difference between the Cowboys situation with Dak and Zeke right now versus the Steelers and Bell last year and Gordon and the Chargers this year, is that there's mutual interest between the Cowboys, Zeke, and Dak. The Cowboys want to sign them, and they want to sign in Dallas. They just haven't actually come to agreeable terms yet.
The issue with that, being that Zeke is here, the Buckeye. Here's my problem with that. With them, there is Zeke's a little funny in the head, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. He gets something in his head, and it needs to be massaged. He and I think he is he is the kind of guy that might say, "I'll sit 2 years. I don't care." I think he is that kind of guy that could just say,
he won't, and I'll tell you why. The dude is in ridiculous shape. He is shredded. He's actually taken off some pounds. He's faster and still just as strong. He's in game shape. He's ready to rock and roll.
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying I think that's in his head. If he decides that, I don't think I guess what I'm saying is I don't think he would have a problem if that was his decision. I think he would say, I'm fine with it. Meaning, I think he could convince himself that that's what I want to do and that's what I'm doing. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he won't or wouldn't sign, but I do believe the attitude. And I've seen him in a lot of interviews. I've seen him local. I just think he's one of those, if he goes, you know what? I'll sit too.
You know what, man? I think we could say that probably about a lot of professional.
No, that being said, that'll be the last question here. If he drops to the 12th pick, would I pick him? Should I pick him at 12?
It depends if your 2 favorite receivers are there. Like you said, you wanted Michael Thomas and Julio.
Obviously, if he falls, one of the other wide receivers were probably taken. So
you would think so. You would think so.
Right.
But you never know.
Right.
If I could get myself Julio and Michael Thomas, let's say, I'd probably still take them.
All right.
However, if I could get Zeke and I'm choosing between Zeke, OBJ, and Mike Evans, I would strongly consider Zeke and one of those two receivers.
Or let's say if it fell right and I could start my draft with Damian Williams, Zeke Elliott, and Todd Gurley.
I wouldn't take both Zeke and Gurley. There's too much risk to me.
Well, I also think there's a chance
yourself up potentially for
three of those guys could be number 1 round quality running backs.
Yeah, but you could also be setting yourself up for Gurley might play, maybe playing 6 games, right. Zeke not playing at all.
And I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. I probably wouldn't do it, but I do got to say, if Zeke comes all the way to 12, it would be hard for me to say no.
Look, I'm telling you, I have a dynasty league right now where I have Zeke and Gordon, and I'm scrambling, man, because I also have Alvin Kamara because I got Kamara in the rookie draft.
Okay, so you have
so I have Kamara, but you have to start at least 2 running backs, and if I'm healthy, I probably have the best set.
By far. Backs. Oh yeah.
Okay.
If you're healthy and they're in camp, you got 3 of the best.
But it's very possible I'm going to have to trade from my receiver depth or quarterback depth within the first couple of weeks to bring in another running back, because after those 3, I'm very thin. Whereas a wide receiver, I'm loaded. At quarterback, I'm loaded. At tight end, I got Ingram, and I just drafted the Lions kid, Hawkinson. So I'm very deep everywhere. It's why I won last year. I think I lost 1 game all year.
Well, right, to be that deep, that's good in
Dynasty. So it's good, but I'm going to have to potentially trade something I really don't want to have to trade just because I'm in a position where I don't know with Gordon and Zeke. So I would not want to put myself in that position intentionally, I guess, is my point. I didn't have a choice,
right?
But you do.
And part of the problem is right now is I'm not sure we're clear 100% on the backups in either of those situations. I mean,
no, we're not. We know that at the very least, Eckler's going to retain the role he already had. So he's the safest of the bunch because we know he's going to get targets. We know he's going to get.
And he's the safest because he's going to get some third down work, even if nothing changes. Where in Dallas, the 2 guys they have there, I'm trying to think the rookie, and then they have
Pollard. It could be Morris.
Right.
It could be somebody we don't know of yet.
But neither of those are going to get any kind of work if Zeke's back. So
no, they'll get a couple touches when Zeke says keep feeding me, and the Cowboys say no, we're out of food. Come off or down, and we'll get them to bring down some new buffet trays. He'll go sit for a couple snaps.
All right. Well, I got to go set my waiver wire for baseball. Get that done. I do have to, like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm going to put Dak as one of my other keepers. So I have the 2 keepers. I have to really look at that. Maybe I'll do a couple more mocks and just see how that 7th round falls out. Because unfortunately a home draft, anything can happen. That's the thing. It's still, you got to make that choice before the draft. And the key is, are you willing to get stuck with Dak there at 7th? And I don't think I'd be hurt too much, but I'll look at that. Lou, had a blast. Again, this was all about me. Sorry. Now, I think we gave a lot of good information, and sometimes you'll get better information from people when they're talking about their own thing.
Because they're asking the right questions. The only problem is that I planned on promoting this show as fantasy football with Lou and Easy. Now it's got to be fantasy sports with Lou and Easy, MLB, and tons of fantasy football because you went off book here and started talking about baseball.
I couldn't not use you for that. I had you here for that decision.
That's why those league mates still accusing you of having me run your team, but it's just simply not true.
I know and if you look, I don't even half the people we drafted are gone. I've either traded, I've been pretty active in that league too.
Dude, I'm going on record. I literally have not done a single thing for your team.
J.R. Slice once a week text me because I'm whooping him now too. He's, he'll say something like, man, Lou's team's pretty damn good. Lou's team's kicking ass. I know Lou's making these moves.
Lou is there for the first 12 or 13 rounds of your draft, which means very little.
And even then, we discussed stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it, and we made. Were there a few? I'm the first to
I
admit.
literally have done nothing.
I know. They just hate me over there.
Yeah, they just don't want to give you the credit, man. That's all it is.
Right. I mean, and again, half the team's not even there. I've made, Whit Merrifield, D. Gordon. D. Gordon was original. Anthony Rendon, Trevor Story, Cabrera, Scooter Jeanette, which has been a flop. I might be able to blame you for that one. I'm not even a homer. I didn't even want a red on my team. You made me take Scooter.
Yeah, he was supposed to be good.
Scooter, Springer, Martinez, Eaton. Miguel Sano's been pretty good pickup for me. He's done pretty good.
He's got some serious pop, yeah.
Brandon Lowe's been good for me. Unfortunately, I've not had him for the last month, but he's due back next week. Molina hasn't been great. AJ Pollock, when he's healthy, has been a decent pickup. So, and I've had a pretty good run on pitchers. I picked up Darvish. Obviously, that's paid off. And I just traded Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn actually was a streamer that I ended up riding for about a month and a half.
So you sold high.
Yeah, I did sell high. So, hey, Lou, thesportscrew.com. Do I get it right? I always think it is the is there, right? It's
thesportscrew.com, just like the Ohio State. Yeah.
Right. Right. We need to, right. Ohio State's going to copyright the.
Yeah. But yeah, it's thesportscrew.com, Sports Crew Radio Network at Sports Crew Radio on Twitter. But that is it. This show will be airing live on that network at 7 a.m.
7 in the morning.
Then right after it airs live, it will be available, of course, on iTunes, Stitcher, et cetera, iHeartRadio, all those major podcasts.
Right. I have two other shows that are one. I have these little throw-in shows. I think it's like the third little show we've done weird. Rain. I think last week we did a Saturday show. But I do have the Fantasy Fan Sportscast that I do live on Wednesday nights with Chris Allen that also gets posted the following morning on the Sports Crew. And I have the A-Hole Hour, which we kind of record a little bit of different days, but we try to get them out by at the first of each week. So I think we're recording one the first of next week because we have a member on vacation. But
the member that member is returning Saturday.
That's what he said. And it's not
today, I guess.
Yeah, we need him to complete the A-hole because he's right there. He's one of the main A-holes.
One of the bigger A-holes.
One of the biggest A-holes we have. So
he's not the biggest, but he's the second biggest.
Oh, I understand. I know where we're coming from.
Yeah.
In a group where I'm not one of the bigger A-holes means it's a pretty A-hole group. That's all.
I don't think I've ever been the biggest A-hole in any group.
I can be if I need to, but this group I don't need to. Lou, thanks for coming on. I had a blast. Thanks for helping me. I'll recap somewhere down the line how well my draft goes because the odds are it won't look like anything we did tonight. But, that's the fun part.
It never does.
All right, Lou, say good night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening, and be ready to stay tuned for more awesome stuff coming up on the network.
Just there you go. Fantasy Fan Podcast. And to keep your fantasies going, follow us at justthefantasyfan.com. Say good night. Good night.